I am your host, Thanasi, and on this show, we cover anything and everything automotive related. So if it is new, if it is related to the car space, you bet your ass we're talking about it, and we're doing it here every morning for you guys here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We are at the 1,740 follower mark, which is pretty kick-ass. We got a goal of 2,000 by the end of the month. So if you guys are excited, if you love car news, don't forget to, let your friends know. Hit them up. Let's get them in here. Let's talk cars. Let's hang out. So I'm going to warn you guys in advance, okay? No coffee yet today. None. Zero. Trying something different here. I don't know if I like it, but we'll see how it works. So instead, water. So I'm going to be drinking from this. Yep, right from the gallon. No, don't give a shit. Okay? And we're going to see how it goes. All right, guys. Today we actually don't have much by way of car news. And I do have to acknowledge the fact that I went out to eat last night. Okay? Went to a restaurant in downtown Boston, which shall not be named. And I don't know. I had like some spicy pasta, and it's hitting me 5 ways from Sunday. It's hitting like crazy. So I apologize to you folks that were expecting to talk about the Euro cars today as well, but I didn't have enough time to get that. I've spent a lot of time in a room that was not my bathroom. Bedroom. Excuse me. It was the bathroom. Spoiler alert. All right. But without that, we're not going to dive too heavy into that rabbit hole. What is going on, Jack? Good morning to you. We got Antoni and John in the house as well. What is going on, fellas? Appreciate that. Welcome. Jack says, Aston is quickly becoming my favorite manufacturer right now. Yeah, I totally agree. At least one of the best premium ones, right? Like the cooler premium manufacturers, right? Which you put in the like Porsche camp, stuff like that. Okay. Jack with the perfect segue. Let's talk about this thing. So what you guys are looking at is the Aston Martin Valkyrie V12 Spider. Now, we talked about this car last week, and it was finally unveiled today at the Monterey week, or whatever, the car week, excuse me. Yes, exactly, 100%. And Aston Martin claims that this is the fastest open-top vehicle ever, and they might be right. I was trying to think about, what would be faster in this open air space, and the cars that come to mind are like the Bugatti Veyron, I believe, did the Bugatti Veyron, hold on. Now this is worth looking up. Fastest convertibles ever. So if we look up a list of the fastest convertibles, yeah, okay, the Bugatti Veyron, I was right. So the number one on this list is the Hennessey Venom GT Spider, which I don't count because that car is fake. You got the Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport, which did 254 miles per hour. Then you have all the Koenigseggs. Okay, so that is 1 and 2. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing is actually the fastest open-top vehicle around something like a circuit. There is no doubt. Now, when Aston Martin was creating this, they worked closely with Adrian Newey to ensure that by taking the top off of the design of which he created, they were able to retain the ethos of the car, right, and retain as much of the performance as possible. So when commenting about the car, Adrian said, quote, and by the way, guys, Adrian Newey is a designer, former designer for Formula One cars, aerodynamicist, okay, for Red Bull specifically. So this guy knows his shit, if you will. Jack says, wrong. Fastest open-top vehicle is a 92 Miata that you borrowed from a friend and don't care about braking. You might be right, dude, honestly. That's great. So Adrian Newey says, what you see is a simple removable roof panel. But the challenge of remaining true to the Valkyrie concept was anything but. He continues to say, maintaining aerodynamic performance with the roof removed was of paramount importance. Likewise, keeping any unavoidable weight gains to an absolute minimum whilst maximizing enjoyment for the driver. So there's a lot to unpack there, but the simpleness goes, what we're seeing here, okay, is a car with no roof. We're seeing an Aston Martin Valkyrie that has the capability to put its roof somewhere, because you know damn well that thing isn't fitting into the car, right? Like a Corvette or something like that. But it has the ability, like we're just seeing a convertible, right? And what Adrian Newey's saying is not only are you seeing a convertible, but you're seeing a car that maintains aerodynamic performance with the roof removed due to the aerodynamic changes they made. So they were able to alter enough about the aerodynamic package of the Spider in order to retain the aerodynamic abilities even with the roof off, which is impressive. They minimized weight gains that come with taking off the roof, much to, popular belief. Hey, T, you're taking off the roof. Shouldn't the weight go down? No, you dumbo. You got to do some other things to make up for the fact that the weight is coming out of the top. The rigidity is coming out of the top. You got to do some other stuff. You know what I mean? Now, taking off the roof wasn't the only change. If you look in the photo of the two Valkyries here, you can see so clearly that the door design is also different. The coupe has gull-wing doors. The Roadster has what they're calling dihedral doors, which effectively tilt forward for easy entry and exit. Now, the performance of the Roadster is just as serious. Just as serious. Hold on, Jack. They should be. Let me alert. Yeah, I got my alert box on. I didn't get any alert. Was your I'll take one of each? I'm assuming the comment, Jack, which, by the way, I appreciate it, dude. Thank you. Yeah, John, so this is a top-down vehicle that won't feel like a top-down vehicle. Well, it will in the sense that you'll feel the air beneath your wings, right? But it won't in the sense that, like, when you're driving an M3 convertible versus an M3 coupe, there's a very obvious stability choice, right? Like, there's a very obvious rigidity, difference between the two vehicles. For these, there aren't. There aren't at all. And the aerodynamic performance is very similar. No, the first one. Interesting, Jack. I'll look into that right after this for sure, the moment I can. That's weird because I have everything on as normal, so it's weird that didn't come through. But again, I appreciate you. Thank you a ton, dude. Seriously. Now let's get a reminder of the statistics of this vehicle, shall we? John says, will it though? Does top-down really count here? It's basically a T-top or a Targa more than a top-down. That's fair. That's fair. But even still, Targa life, right? You can get that hair, that hair beneath your wings, if you will. Like, Targas are still nice. It's not a full convertible, but you still get the open air experience. You know what I mean? That you're looking for the most part, right? Like, I feel like if you put someone in a convertible and in a Targa with their blindfold on, like, they would still feel just as excited. You know what I mean? But let's get into the power details quickly because this thing is batshit crazy. So when we said they tried to retain as much from the coupe as possible, we mean it. This thing has the 6.5 liter V12. It has the hybrid power, 1,134 horsepower, 664 pound-feet of torque, red line of 11,100. John says T-tops don't have the open air effect anywhere close to a true top-down. I believe that. It's okay. What it amounts to is having a Hershey Kiss versus the whole goddamn chocolate bar. Both of them are chocolate. The bar just gives you a lot more, right? That's the difference in my view between like a T-top, a Targa, and a convertible. The T-top Targa, they're the Hershey Kiss. They give you just enough chocolate to satisfy your craving of chocolate. And then the convertible's the whole goddamn bar. Sometimes you want the bar, but most of the time, The Hershey Kiss works. You know what I mean? Quoted for sure on that. Yeah, you guys take that away. Do with it what you will. The interesting thing here, though, is the top speed. This car has a top speed of 217 miles an hour with the top on and 205 with the top up. So it definitely isn't as fast as a Bugatti Veyron with the top down, but it's still pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Okay, moving on to the next subject. We got the Acura Nsx. We knew this car was going to be unveiled yesterday, and here it is. This is the Acura Nsx Type S. Now, the changes, simple. What about cars with no roof, period? What kind of chocolate bar are those? So you're talking about like spiders? We got the Hershey Kiss. We got the chocolate bar. What would the third be? Like, what's an easy way to say more chocolate than a chocolate bar? We got the Hershey Kiss, the bar. What's that next step? Because that would definitely be what that is. The fondue fountain. Is that what it is? It's just like a chocolate fondue fountain is a spider. Yeah, we got two things from Acura today, Jack. John says, I think I'm feeling the whole thing today. Going to drive the S2K. Hell yeah. Yeah, king size. Yeah, there you go, John. Good call. So what you guys are looking at is the Acura Nsx Type S. And it has the changes that we predicted because, guys, when it comes to making the performance version of a car that is in this class, the changes tend to be pretty standard, straightforward. You look at aero changes, you get some more power, suspension, transmission tuning, and you get some carbon fiber. It's true of cars like the R8. It's true of cars like the Huracan. It's true of cars like the Ferrari. It's true of cars like the STI, where you go from the STI to the STI 209, right? All cars that go from mild to mildly wild, aero, power, suspension, transmission. Okay? All of them. So when folks say they were expecting more, they don't understand how the class works. There is no world where Honda was going to replace the engine of this car. There's no world where Honda was going to remove the hybrid components from this car. There is no world where this car, like John says, was going to become manual. No world. But y'all know that. You watch this show. You guys are smart. Okay? But let's get into the details of this Type S because I actually do think it is a spicy meatball. 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 with 3 electric motors. I mean, Jack, if you think about it, that is how the Hellcat went from Hellcat to Red Eye or Hellcat to Demon, right? It was power, suspension, aero. They changed the hood, put a bigger splitter, put a different wing on it. Transmission tuning, suspension tuning, right? Like that is the same recipe. The exact same recipe works in that goddamn car too, which I love, by the way. I still really love those. Okay. 3.5-liter V6 twin turbo with 3 electric motors. Remember, this car was doing this before other people in this class were doing it. Okay, that's what I want you guys to remember about the NSX overall. The Acura NSX, as it stands, as we see it, okay, was unveiled in 2016. So this car was using electric and gas 5 years ago. The only other car to do that at the time of this car's release was the 918. Remember that. Moving on. In stock form, the NSX makes 573 horsepower and 476 pound-feet of torque. In Type S form, it makes 600 horsepower and 492 pound-feet of torque. So an increase in 27 horse and 16 torque. But the upgrades aren't just a mild tune. We're not looking at an intake here that gave this car the 27 horsepower. They're making substantial changes that allow this car to do repeated laps on track and just bring a sense of reliability to that speed, but also changes that I'm assuming are going to be way more tunable than the existing NSX. So what are those changes? What are the changes they put in that net this car an additional 27 horsepower? Well, I'll tell you the changes, okay? Shout out to Andy. What is going on, dude? Welcome. New turbos, okay? To get 27 horsepower more, they put in new turbos. But the turbos aren't just from anything. The turbos are from their GT3 Evo race car. This car has GT3 spec turbos on it, which results in a 6% increase in boost pressure, which results in increased reliability over repeated use. Okay? In addition to that, new injectors. In addition to that, improved intercoolers. In addition to that, the battery capacity is up 20% because, electric technology and electric ability has increased in the last 5 years, and its output has increased 10%. So this thing is going to feel a whole hell of a lot faster than the regular NSX, which, by the way, everybody, is already pretty freaking fast. Like the NSX, the new one hauls the mail, right? There's no doubt it hauls the mail. There's no doubt. There is no doubt that it hauls the mail. John says, more boost without internal changes. Not much more, right? Like you're looking at, where is it? Hold on. I just lost my screen. That's frustrating. You're looking at an increase in 6%, which is substantial, but the motor itself that's already in the NSX is a pretty beastly unit, right? Like the whole 9 is forged in that thing. So I'm pretty sure it can take it. Jack says, this version looks about 15 million times better than the existing NSX. Fair. But guys, we're not done talking about the changes. We're not. Jack says, I'm impressed that they had to change the turbos out rather than just turning up. Yeah, because this car is more than just the power figure, right? It's taking it out on track, it's doing the damn thing, and it's going crazy. And it's doing it for repeated use, right? Like it's doing it for repeated efforts to just continuously do it, right? Like that's what it's trying to do, is increase the reliability of it as much as possible, right? John says, up 6% when people will tune these, will take that room away that room then. Yeah, sure, but I guess that argument can be had for a lot of things, right? It's like, why buy the M3 when I can get an M340i and tune the motor and get the same power, right? That's effectively the same conversation we're having here, where it's like, I can tune the M340i and get M3 levels of power, but the M3 is offering things that I can't get in the M340i. And it's the same thing here. So while you can match the horsepower number, and I'm sure you can match the acceleration times, when it comes to driving around track, stock for stock, there's nothing you'll be able to do to keep up with this thing. Now, if you modify the car, sure, right, you'll probably keep up with it. But yeah, factory for factory, that's the key. Yeah, you got it. So the upgrades don't stop there. They they lowered the gear ratio in the front electric motors to dramatically increase acceleration. The 9-speed dual clutch transmission was updated. This thing can shift up 50% faster than before and has a new rapid downshift mode, which under hard braking will actually allow this thing to skip gears to allow an increase in engine braking to help you slow down faster, right? Jack says, or why would I buy a Lambo when I can build a... Yeah, exactly. The exact same concept. You're spot on. So So that concept is really cool. Excited to see how that works. In addition to that, this thing gets new wheels. You're looking at forged 5-spoke wheels with a split design that are available in gray or black. Yeah, it's definitely a little extreme, but hey, it's the king-size chocolate bar argument of that conversation. And these wheels are 0.4 inches wider in the front and 0.8 inches wider in the rear. Now, if these changes aren't enough for you, okay, if you want more out of your NSX, you can get it. You can opt for the lightweight package, which gives you carbon ceramic brakes, a carbon engine cover, and carbon interior trim, which takes out 58 pounds. A lot of that being mass that isn't moving, rotational mass, right? Which will feel very, very good, to quote my brother. Now, in addition to all those changes, this car has a larger front grille opening, which improves cooling, a front splitter, side sills, and a rear spoiler with a carbon diffuser that is ripped right from the GT3 race car. In terms of inspiration, it's very, very close. If you look at the back of this car compared to the back of the GT3, you can see that Acura is just adopting the learnings that they have with their race car by putting the turbos in this thing, putting pretty much the rear diffuser into this thing, etc., etc. And the roof in this thing is also carbon. So this car is a pretty substantial change over the regular NSX. And again, if you guys didn't like the first NSX, you're probably not going to like this either. But to expect something different is unfair. It's very unfair. I'm going to be honest with you guys. But where the price comes in is where things get kind of spicy. Because they're making 350 of these total, and 300 of them will come to the US. Now, the price for this, remember, every 2022 NSX is going to be a Type S. The price is $169,500. And if you opt for the lightweight package, the price climbs to $182,000. What is going on, Michael? Welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well. John says, I do always forget how small these are until I see them out. Andy, it is an HPDE weapon. Yeah, I love these. And I don't know if you guys knew this. And if you didn't, some of you are relatively a little newer to the stream. You might not know my entire car history, but I owned an S2000 at some point, okay? And that was a very extensive build, and I actually, when I picked what color I wanted for that S2000, what is going on, Peter? Good morning. When I picked a color, I ripped it right from an NSX I saw. Right from a 2016 NSX. This was my S2000. The mailman just came and scared the shit out of me. I don't know if that happens to you guys. This was my S2000. And it is painted in Nord Gray, which is a 2016 NSX color. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the NSX overall. What was I? Oh yeah, okay. So what I wanted to check into now, guys, was pricing. Because like I said, I think that price is pretty freaking awesome. $169,500. Now let's look at the competition. A stock Audi R8 with the V10 is $142,000. You up it to the performance, which gives you the 600 horsepower, but less torque, which gives you all the other things. You're looking at $197,000. So this car costs about $30,000 less than an Audi R8 for which it competes against. Now, if we look at Porsche, okay, what is the Porsche we can get for a similar price for $169,500? Naturally, we're going to go to the 911 lineup, and we're going to hit that configure button. $169,000 puts you behind the wheel of a optioned Carrera 4 GTS, or an additional $5,000 puts you behind the wheel of a turbo. We already know you're not getting a GT3 for that price, even if the sticker is that price, right? So in terms of its competition, and we know it's way underpricing of the Ferraris, we know it's underpricing of the Lambos, we know it's underpricing of the McLarens, right? This thing's a freaking bargain. It's a freaking bargain. And if you're worried, guys, We usually try not to cater to clout chasers, okay? But if you're worried about people taking Instagram photos of your car, odds are you're going to be the only motherfucker that shows up to a Cars and Coffee in one of these, okay? Whereas if you're in an R8, you're parking in the row of R8s. If you're in the 911, you're parking in the parking lot with 911s. But when it comes to the NSX, you're probably going to be the only person with this one, especially if it's a Type S, especially if it has the lightweight package. So it seems like it works all around. So I'm struggling, given what this car was, to understand what the knock is on this car. I'm struggling. I don't understand it. People hate these. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Right? I understand maybe when the car was launched a little bit. I understand that maybe because it wasn't the OG car that you're used to. I can understand maybe that you don't like it. But at the end of the day, the car fits the ethos 100%. There is no doubt as to what the NSX was trying to be. There is no doubt in my mind. No doubt. All right, we're going to take a big swig of water because we're going to get into the last car. Okay? Now, the last car, I'm going to be honest with you guys, took me by surprise. The last car, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was wrong. I don't say this often because I'm usually not. Okay? But I was wrong. But I was also right. And I'll tell you guys what I mean right now. So if you guys have been on social media, which I'm assuming you are because you're taking in this fine show, okay, you've seen some images floating around the internet, okay? You've seen some images floating around your Facebook groups. You've seen some images floating around the space. And they've been of a small, weird-looking white car that's covered in a lot of camo, and you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute. The Integra was spied? I'll pull up that photo for you guys because it was everywhere. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute. We're getting a new Integra? Where did this come from? All of a sudden, like I'm seeing like all these different pictures, all these different posts, like what is happening? What is going on? This is not expected. Like, what's the deal? And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I saw these photos all of a sudden. I saw people freaking out about this picture right here. Okay. And I knew that this was very old. Very old. This photo here is from February of 2020. Okay. And this photo right here has already been commented on by Acura. Okay. Motor One reached out to Acura about this photo right here. They asked them, is this a revived Acura Integra Coupe or a really good fake? And Acura responded by saying, quote, the spy shots you reference appear to be the work of a skilled Photoshop artist. While we appreciate the enthusiasm for our past products, the vehicle depicted here is not a Honda or Acura development prototype. End of story. Full stop. And I hear what you guys are saying. You're like, T, they could have just lied, right? They could have just said that to get you off their back or whatever. But there were other elements of this car that were fucky, right? There were two photos of the Integra shown. One, this. And then two, I'll show you the other one. This. All right, let me pull it up. This, okay? This was the second one. This was the first one. I'm going to cover up my face. I don't care. Both of these were showed at the exact same time. Both of these were said to be the exact same car. Now, any person, okay, that knows anything about anything can point out one thing clearly that is different in these two photos. Any person that knows anything about anything can point out something very clearly different about these two photos. Do you guys see it? Do you see the biggest difference in these two photos and as to why these photos are most certainly photoshopped? And as to why, when Acura comments that this specifically isn't the developmental vehicle. Does anybody see it? I'll give you guys a second. Take a swig of water. Okay. You don't see it. That's okay. That's what I'm here for. Look at the background here. See the greenery? See the greenery here? These photos were taken on the exact same day. Look at this photo here. What the hell are these? All of the trees are dead. Well, they're not dead. They just shed their leaves, right? That's one. John points out the other one. Left-hand drive and right-hand drive. Guys on the left here. Guys on the right here. Right? So these photos were photoshopped. So for me, okay, who's thinking about this, right? I've seen Acura's product plan for the future. And that included a new premium compact sedan. There's no mention of a coupe. None. Zero. Zilch. Okay? And I knew that these were photoshopped because this was old news. This was earlier this year, February of 2021. Okay? So when I see this circling, I'm like, this is just bullshit. And everyone believes it. What is going on? I'm having to tell people, like, guys, like, those were photoshopped. Acura just canceled their Civic Coupe. Why would they come back with another one, et cetera, et cetera? And sure enough, won't you know, Acura's got to go out and make me look effing stupid, which they can't. They tried. And they do this. During the NSX Type S unveiling, Acura, with drones, calls out the Integra and showcases a silhouette. Now, this is a drone silhouette, okay? But it's important because they could still pick the body type in the silhouette, right? I'm not saying, guys, study the body lines of this. That's exactly what the Integra... No. But if this was going to be a sedan, Acura could have made it look like a sedan. They could have with the drones. They could have. But instead, they made it look like a coupe. So that's important. Because this bucks the trend of anything that was in Acura's product planning. But it plays to Acura trying to be a performance brand first, so why not bring the genesis of the sports vehicle for the brand? Bring it back. So they showed this off in the drones, and then they released this photo on social media. Jack says, if this is below 30 grand, I am in one. John says, or those were really fake, realized the hype and jumped on it, aka the new Integra will just be a body over the TLX. So I'm all set, Handle. Appreciate it, though. So, John, that's an interesting point, but I've talked about Clubhouse before. I don't know if I've talked about it to you guys, but Clubhouse is a mobile app, okay, I'll show you guys right now, where you can hop in to a series of chat rooms, right? This came out maybe a year ago now, maybe close to a year ago. But when this first launched, there was a pretty special period where the automotive industry took to this in droves. Hey. Yeah. Get this guy out of here. And there was a lot of really cool conversation, and a lot of it centered around the production process. In these conversations, there were designers, there were engineers, there were product planners, there were project managers for different brands, Aston Martin, Ford, McLaren, etc. And what we landed on was the fact that, guys, like, when we see something like this, the Acura Integra, this has been years in the making. Years. So while I hear you, John, in that they could have seen the hype over those renderings and been like, yo, this is going to be a really good thing, it would have been impossible for them to not only turn around the design, turn around the development, and produce a vehicle for something that's going to be unveiling next year. This car is going to be coming out in 2022. And that was shock to me as well, because I see things like this, and the first thing that would have come to my mind is like, well, shit. Like John said, they saw the hype of the Photoshop and they just made it. But apparently, a major part of the product shift to being a performance brand first led to them doing something like this. Now, Acura's brand officer, John Ikeda, says, quote, "The Integra is back." He says, "I'm thrilled to say the Integra is returning to the Acura lineup with the same fun-to-drive spirit and DNA of the original, fulfilling our commitment to precision." I'm still wrapped around Thanasi without the headphones. Mike, I can put them on for you. You know what I mean? Fulfilling our commitment to precision-crafted performance in every way. Design, performance, and the overall driving experience. The car is going to be unveiled next year, and Acura is promising to release new details about it as it edges closer to production. Jack says, "Let's not ignore the fact that whoever did the photoshopping skills is pretty impressive nonetheless, no doubt, no doubt." Jill says Type R. Jill, that's going to be an interesting one because Acura, yet in the States, has not done Type R, but they very much committed to Type S. So I wouldn't be surprised. The only vehicle they did Type R on was the Integra, obviously. But since then, the brand has pivoted very, very hard to the Type S moniker, right? Like the TLX Type S, the NSX Type S that we just talked about. So I wouldn't be surprised if they called it Type S here. Jack says, "Let's not ignore the fact that the Photoshop is really impressive." Yeah, I totally agree. They did a really good job. John says, "But a body over a platform that they already designed is a quick turnaround." It isn't, right? Because while the platform is already there, you're now creating a body that fits the platform. You're creating processes to build the body. You're creating an interior that's all new, especially if it's a coupe. And if it's based on the TLX, that means that it's big. Like if it's based on the TLX, this is a big thing, right? It's a big car, unless they're chopping down the chassis to make it smaller, and then that's even more work, right? Like there's a lot that goes into it for sure. Mark, what is going on? Appreciate you with the like and the share. Jack with the share as well. Jack with the 50 stars. Let's see if this works. It does work indeed, my friend. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mark, what is going on, man? Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday to everybody. This does work. So yeah, guys, like, now here's my question to you. And we're going to start this early. We're going to start this conversation early because it's an important one, okay? And I want you to be realistic, okay? I'm going to go to Acura's website. I'm going to pull up Acura's website underneath. And I want you to be realistic when I ask you this question, okay? What do you want powering this car, and where do you, like, how do you want it to work? How do you see it set up? But be realistic. The answer that I do not want is I want a K-Series with a manual, naturally aspirated. Like, that's not going to happen. Human Weapon, wasn't Honda discontinuing the SI Coupe? That chassis could work. Yes. The SI Coupe is discontinued, and that could potentially be where they're bringing this from. I wouldn't be surprised if this was Civic-based, just like the original Integra was, right? And let's be honest, the new Civic is pretty special. It's interesting, and small tangent before we go off on this. When the Integra first came around, or not first, when the Integra that we all remember came around. I'm talking about the twin headlight one that we got here in the States, right? The Civic of that time was impressive, right? It's the EK generation, okay? Your comfort the luxury in the Civic was very, very nice. And it led to the Integra, which made it all spicier, to also be very, very nice. Now, the existing Civic, the one that just got unveiled, the one that's getting remarkable reviews, the one that feels incredibly premium, seems like a fantastic basis for this. Now, in the 90s, when Honda made the Civic, a lot of the reviewers said the ride was so plush that if you called it an Acura, we wouldn't be surprised. This Civic, the one that just dropped, the ride and features and interior are so plush, we wouldn't be surprised if someone called it an Acura. History repeats itself, folks. Here we are. Okay, so tell me what you would want, realistically, this car to look like. And when I say look like, I mean powered by. Okay, so we're going to look at the vehicles on Acura's website because this could potentially give you guys some insight, okay? But I want to hear from you before I give my answers to what I think this thing is potentially. So let's go into their vehicles and let's take a look. So right now, Acura has 5 vehicles. They got the ILX, which is based on not the 10th gen, but the 9th gen Civic, okay? This is going away. We have the TLX. Let me zoom in here for you guys. Sorry. We have the TLX. Okay. The RDX. And the MDX. And a couple things to point out here. Okay. The TLX, which is probably the one that it's going to share drivetrain parts with if it shares anything with any Acura, has 2 engines. 2-liter VTEC turbo, making 272 horsepower, and a 3-liter twin turbo, making 355. Jack says an i4 or i3 up front with an electric motor out back to make it all-wheel drive. Okay. John says a 4-cylinder turbo base with a 6-cylinder as an option. Front-wheel drive with all-wheel drive as an option. 3,500 pounds with 200 to 300 horsepower. Okay. Michael says the TLX engine would work well in this if focused on performance. Does Acura have a DCT? Acura actually has 2. Acura has the DCT that is in the NSX, the 9-speed. But Acura also makes another DCT, and it's in the ILX. It's an 8-speed dual clutch that actually also has a torque converter. So they got a couple of them. So yeah, and it's a good one. It's a really good one. Human Weapon, just give it the Civic Type R drivetrain and call it a day. John says, my call is the base will be a luxury Civic and the premium will be a TLX. All right, guys. So I'm going to tell you the 2 vehicles that I think this could be. Number 1, I think you guys are spot on. It could rip this engine right here. 2.0-liter VTEC turbo that's found in this TLX A-Spec. 272 horsepower is a really, really good number in this class. You got to remember the other vehicles in this class. The Veloster N has 275. The Elantra N has 275. The Civic Si has 200. The GTI has 258. Yeah, the Civic Type R has just over 300, but right in that wheelhouse, the 300 horsepower is great. Michael says 355 horsepower with an 8-speed DCT would be sweet. Guys, I also want to be realistic here, okay? And the one thing that I want to let you know is when we see this, okay, when we see this image from Acura of the Integra, and when we hear them describe it, okay, and they say things like, we want the fun-to-drive spirit and DNA of the original to come back. What that doesn't mean is 0 to 60. What that doesn't mean is quarter mile. And what that doesn't mean is horsepower. So if I had to guess today what this vehicle is going to be, and I get 2 guesses, just like I'll give you guys 2 guesses. Number 1, 2-liter turbo from the Acura TLX that'll make the exact same number. 272 horsepower. Double wishbone all around, which, by the way, it'll have double wishbone and multi-link, just like the TLX. Front-wheel drive, dual clutch, coupe. Option number 1. Option number 2 is it's a little bit spicier. Option number 2 brings in some electric power. Option number 2 gets us to that next level. So I don't know if I don't know if either one of these are going to have a 6-speed in it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. If we're just thinking about this, like, realistically, I don't know if any one of these are going to have a 6-speed. But the anticipation of having a front-wheel drive 8.6 rival again is good. Is good. John says, save the manuals. You're telling me they don't go after a little bit of the 400Z crowd? I mean, sorry guys. I'm yawning. I don't think so. I think this thing should be, at most, 40 grand. So maybe there's someone cross-shopping a fully loaded Integra versus a base 400Z. But that's the same person that was cross-shopping a fully loaded Civic Si versus a 370Z base, right? It's like the same conversation. I don't know if they're necessarily like competitors, but I bet you there's going to be some people that cross-shop them. You know what I mean? I would love to see it as a manual, though, for sure. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we're either going to get a 2-liter turbo with around 300 horsepower, front-wheel drive, limited slip diff, double wishbone multi-link, which is going to be sick. Or we get something with a little hybrid juice. But remember, cars can be fun to drive without having shit tons of horsepower. They can be. It's a fact. Like it's a proven fact. Okay? So I want you guys to remember that. All right? John says, as long as we don't get a CVT, that's the good news. Does Acura even make a CVT? I don't think they do anymore. I think they've pivoted to 9-speed everything. TLX doesn't have it. The RDX has a 10-speed. The MDX has a 10-speed. The NSX has a 9-speed. Yeah, so we're good. We're good there. Right. Toyota Honda actually still does CVTs in their Civic. The Civic does have CVTs. So they definitely still exist within the brand, but just not Acura specifically. All right, friends, I'm going to give you a quick reset. We're going to go over the 3 bits of information, and then we'll let you get on your Merry Friday. I got some work to do today. I'm excited about it. The first thing that we talked about this morning is this guy right here. This is the Valkyrie Spider, sharing a lot with the Valkyrie Coupe. This thing also has the 6.5-liter V12 that revs to 11,000, except without the roof. It provides for a truly biblical experience. No gull-wing doors, but you get some pretty cool dihedral doors, I believe they call it. Adrian Newey says, maintaining aerodynamic performance with the roof off was paramount. Likewise, keeping any unavoidable weight gains to an absolute minimum whilst maximizing enjoyment for the driver was key. Look at this shot. This car is just money. Moving on, we spoke about the NSX. New for 2022, the swan song, the last of the dying breed. The NSX is going to go out on a high note. Changes to aerodynamics, changes to power, changes to suspension, transmission tuning, and carbon fiber, all for the price of $169,500, putting it at $30,000 less than a comparable R8, putting it at almost $100,000 less than a comparable Ferrari, putting it in an equivalent price point to an MSRP of a 911 GT3, of which you will not get an MSRP. It's a good one. It's a real good one. And then the last car that we talked about today, the Integra. It's back. Here's the image. This image, right from Acura. and it's coming soon. Jack says, in other words, I hopped on my PC and bought F1 2021 Deluxe Edition last night, so I am ready for MoneyShift Gaming. Hell yeah, dude. I'm probably going to buy it maybe today. I'm going to see if my existing PC can run it and see how it goes. But either way, today is game night, so we will probably hop on tonight. Flick the stream on, and if it doesn't look like an episode of Wallace and Gromit, play some League of Legends and talk some cars. So I look forward to doing that with everybody. Thank you all for joining. Jack, John, Mark, Andy, Human Weapon, Mike, Jill, everybody. I truly appreciate you all for tuning in. Peter, Antoni, everybody, thank you so much for the support as always. I really, 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 really appreciate it. As John messaged me, he DM'd me, he said the 90s are back, and he is totally right. We got a new Supra, a new Z, a new Integra. What is next? I don't know, but I'm living for it. I'm going to call it. It's a Mazda Coupe. All right, everybody. Happy Friday.